And Israeli officials say a ceasefire deal is not close after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu made a counter-proposal. This after Hamas accepted a new ceasefire proposal from mediators over the weekend. Now ABC News is learning Netanyahu is pushing for the return of roughly half the remaining 24 living hostages in exchange for a ceasefire that would last 40 or 50 days. ABC's Matt Rivers is live in Tel Aviv, Israel for us. Matt, what's the latest on these negotiations?
Yeah, so two sources that we spoke to here in Tel Aviv earlier this morning confirmed those details that you just laid out there. Really not a huge surprise, given that every round of negotiations that we've seen between Israel and Hamas, you've seen a lower number put forward by Hamas in terms of the hostages they're willing to release. Israel puts a higher number out there, and then usually in the past they've met somewhere in the middle. When that happens, if that happens this time around, remains to be seen. The people that we're speaking to say that it's very unlikely, in their opinion, and again, it's just an opinion, but in their opinions, it's very unlikely that this will happen before Passover begins here in Israel on April 12th. So it doesn't appear to be imminent, but the hope in all of this is that both sides still are talking at this point, and that a ceasefire, even if it's temporary, 40, 50 days maybe, is still on the table in the near term.
Now, Israeli officials say they don't expect an agreement before Passover starts on April 12th. So how are the hostages' families reacting to that?
Well, it's horrific. There's no question about it. I mean, these poor families have been trapped in a horrific purgatory since the beginning of this war. In fact, they're angry oftentimes and quite vocal about their dislike for the Netanyahu government, who they say prioritizes continuing the war in Gaza rather than bringing their loved ones home. Of course, the Netanyahu administration would argue that they're doing everything in their power to bring them home, but the fact remains that these people remain trapped over there. Meanwhile, in Gaza, you have the death toll now since March 18th, when hostilities resumed between both sides, now topping 1,000 people, according to the Gaza Ministry of Health. So the horrors in Gaza continue, and for those hostage families, the nightmare also continues.
Meanwhile, most of Rafah is under evacuation orders. The IDF says it's returning to combat there. What more are you hearing about that, and where are these people going?
It is a large-scale evacuation. There are many, many neighborhoods in Rafah that are under that evacuation. They're being told to move north, and it's just a reminder that these operations that Israel has undertaken once again in Gaza, not just with aerial bombardments, which were quite intense overnight, according to our team inside of Gaza that is there, but also you see these forced evacuations, which means that combat operations, more targeted strikes will happen in those neighborhoods in the coming hours and days. So this is the kind of thing that we can expect to keep happening until any sort of ceasefire agreement is agreed upon.
Matt Rivers in Tel Aviv, Israel, thank you.